Welcome to the Geekcentric podcast, and welcome to our spoiler-free review for Marvel's latest film, Black Widow. Hello, my fellow widows. My name is Justin, and today we'll be giving you our first reaction to Marvel's Black Widow, which hits theaters on July 9th, as well as Disney Plus with its premiere access. But first, if you're joining us for the first time, this is our spoiler-free preview show where we share our first reaction with you and discuss our opinions about the film. Now, allow me to introduce you to my fellow geeky spies. First up, he's less of a spy, but more of the guy in the chair who always got your back. Welcome, Nate.
Oh, so wait, I'm just like the tech guy in the background.
For sure.
That's typing away on the computers.
If I was a spy, I would trust you as being my guy on the chair that was looking out for me, giving me the GPS, telling me where to go.
Yeah.
That is entirely it.
But Justin, do I have any red in my ledger? I need to know.
Oh, no. You're not. You don't get your hands dirty. Sorry.
Okay.
But this guy does get his hands dirty. He's slick, sly, fearless agent of mystery. Kevin Hudson, how are you, buddy?
I sound like I'm about to walk down a runway or something. I like that.
Yeah, I can see that. You would have to be wearing a vest, though, under your suit. Like just some sort of a vest. It's a reference to the movie. You guys don't all understand yet. It's okay. How we doing, boys? Happy Embargo Day.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, we made it.
Yeah, we made it. We actually got screeners for Black Widow, which is fantastic. Thank you so much, Disney Plus, for again letting us take part. And today the embargo lifts, and we watched it last night, and we're gonna just talk about it. But of course, this is spoiler free. But we would love nothing more than to share with you our thoughts in case you might be on the fence about checking this one out, in case, you're not a huge Marvel fan. But that being said, we do want to get right into it, so let's get to it. Let's give you guys a little synopsis here. Following the events of Captain America's Civil War, Natasha Romanoff finds herself on the run and forced to confront a dangerous conspiracy with ties to her past, pursued by a force that will stop at nothing to bring her down. Romanoff must deal with her history as a spy and the broken relationships left in the wake of long before she became an Avenger. This film stars Scarlett Johansson, Florence Pugh, David Harbour, William Hurt, Ray Winstone, and Rachel Weisz. Guys, before we get into kind of discussing the details about this sort of what we liked and what we didn't like, spoiler-free, of course, I want to know, what was your hype level going into this? Because, when we talk about hype level, this had a significant hype level, being the fact that it was delayed over a year, as most movies were during from the pandemic. But so the hypeness is kind of it's getting up there. So Kev, let's start with you. I know you're a fan of prequels. I'd love to know your hype level going into this movie.
All right. Well, yeah. I will definitely repeat or share your sentiments there that the anticipation, that build of over a year, the wait almost was the main source of my, anticipation for the movie. Because I've always liked the Black Widow character. I thought Natasha was interesting enough. She was integral. I knew that she was integral to the inner workings of S.H.I.E.L.D. for a long time there at the beginning and setting this all up. And I felt terrible, when she dies. Spoilers for Endgame. Sorry, guys. And I always kind of thought Disney did her a bit dirty, right? There was really no attention paid to the sacrifice she made. And so I always thought that was a bit unfortunate. But I wasn't all that excited to see this story necessarily. And then I started my cinematic rewatch. So I'm going through all the movies, and I just finished Civil War on the weekend. So I literally tune into this movie, and it's taking place 5 minutes later, essentially.
Oh, that's good.
So
that's good.
So the second it started, my hype level jumped through a 10. I just thought, cool, this will be a wicked part of this story that we haven't seen.
So it almost works because that's you rewatching the MCU from the beginning and then getting to this point. That almost helps to sort of stave off some of the negative feelings you have about prequels, because it sort of feels like it's just perfectly lined up
it's
with
a
your
sequel
rewatch.
for me right now. It's
That's
amazing.
kind of unfortunate.
Amazing.
I thought you were gonna tear into this for being a prequel, but okay. Well, I'm excited to hear what you think. Nate, how about yourself? What was your hype level going in?
Yeah, I mean, I think just like you mentioned, waiting so long for this movie, my hype level was pretty high. But you know what? I did find that unlike some other people who I've heard have kind of, because some of the reviews are already out and getting out there, sort of saying that they didn't really enjoy the movie as much because they anticipated it to be more than it was. I sort of had my expectations set properly, in the sense that I was expecting a solo movie for Natasha Romanoff and to learn more about her character's past, and that's what we got. And so for me, like, my hype levels weren't astronomical,
for sure,
because you'd think like, oh, this is the first movie of Phase 4, like the first movie of Phase 4, it's got to be the biggest deal ever, and it really isn't. But that being said, I'm we'll get to it, but I'm really happy with what we did get.
Yeah. Well, I kind of have the same sort of sentiments. I wasn't like, I don't think the last year overhyped this movie for me. That's for sure. I does make me wonder why we needed to wait, but we'll get into that. When it comes to Marvel movies, though, I'm always excited. More so for what the movie might lead in terms of future MCU stories. But that being said, the announcement of a Black Widow film, while overdue, seems ill-timed, given that we know, as Kevin clearly spoiled here, that her character dies in Endgame. So while I was intrigued, I was a bit hesitant at the same time. I think very much like yourself, Nate, I set myself with the right expectations of probably knowing that this wasn't going to be like the huge thing, but maybe kind of like an interlude or a sort of prologue, if you will, from Endgame into the larger things within the MCU.
Right.
Hype level, just on the low level. Well, now that you know how we were feeling hyped on this movie going into it, let's get into our first question here. Simple one. I'm going to keep it simple so we avoid spoilers. What worked, or what did you like? Think of it in either of those facets. Nate, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, for sure. Like Kevin mentioned, this movie does pick up right off of Civil War, and the movie feels very Civil War. I love how the movie travels all over the world. And I think some of the cinematography in the movie is really, really fantastic. Shout out to Gabriel Beristain for knocking it out of the park with what he captured here, and even to the point of like how he captured some of the action in the movie. I also want to shout out James Young, the stunt coordinator for this movie, because, dude, the stunts and fighting in this movie are phenomenal. Like, I would say up there, rivaling Mission Impossible movies, and I think that's a big deal. The fights are very visceral, and honestly, I found it hard to watch some of the moments when they're falling and they get injured, because it's so physical. You feel every single hit, you feel every single bump, and you feel every single punch. And I think that's really cool, because I think a lot of movies and a lot of action movies, a lot of superhero movies can tend to feel kind of floaty sometimes, right? And I get this. We've got a human character in Natasha, so it makes sense that they're grounding even the action, but I just thought that was such a smart choice.
Yeah, just in regards to the fighting, while you're talking about it, I was able to actually attend the press conference where, the small group of the cast and crew got together and the questions were asked. And someone had asked the question about, just how the director approached the fighting style. And she said some really interesting stuff. She spoke about how it was important for the fight sequences and the choreography to feel dirty and unclean, very raw and gritty and in the moment with its own pulse, its own heart. And I feel like that in itself was a way for her, as she described it, to really remind people that it's two people fighting rather than superheroes. And that's how she cemented herself himself in this story. And I thought that was really telling after, hearing those words and after what I watched. Like, that's kind of runs as a sentiment for the entire movie, versus obviously when we see her fighting the Taskmaster. Like, there is more of an elevated, that floatiness that you described, like that superhero sort of esque style between Taskmaster and Widow that kind of takes place, that feels different, right? Has its own pulse, as she would say.
Yeah, and I mean, let's talk about the Taskmaster, right? I think what a phenomenal character that, with all the different like action and fighting styles that we got from them. I don't know. I thought what they did with that character in terms of the fighting was really cool, and it does make sense that it's floaty because, again, they're replicating that sort of
hyper.
Yeah, they're replicating superheroes.
Yeah, exactly.
So
it absolutely,
it makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, they have the super soldier strength, but it's not, overmatch or overpowering our characters by any means. But yeah, no, the fighting, I love. There's a few some of the hits are so hard hitting that they're almost like laugh out loud. Just there's quite a few of those moments. So yeah, there was great just physicality in the fighting, like you guys said. But this movie had very much its own feel, right? That's always fun when Marvel can make a movie that fits into a specific genre, the heist films or the political thriller that was Captain America Winter Soldier, that political thriller, whereas this now took on the spy genre from more of a Mission Impossible or Bourne Identity sort of feel to it, and like it just kept moving and it was going, and it was that pulse pounding action sort of mystery thriller that it was that made it a lot of fun, I think.
Go ahead, Nate.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I also wanted to just shout out the other feeling that I got from this movie, which is The Incredibles. I don't know about you guys, but I totally got, in multiple moments throughout the movie, the feeling of like live action Russian Incredibles. That's a lot of, with some of the family dynamic, which I thought was really well done.
Yeah, I think, when it comes to the story, I loved how it was very grounded. Like, again, this is where I get that idea that it felt very prologue. It kind of took you out of the intensity that was Endgame of a superhero movie. And if this was to have come out right after, it would have grounded you right back in MCU like world. But obviously it's a prequel and a very unique point in Romanoff's realization of being an Avenger.
Totally.
It feels familiar to Cap 2. Right? Like Winter Soldier. It feels familiar to Civil War, right? And even more recently, The Falcon and Winter Soldier. It is of that real world MCU that we know. And the story's actually very simple and sort of refreshing, given the bigger things we've currently seen going on in the MCU. And while it's a prequel, I do think they've done some really amazing stuff here to set up for future MCU movies, like just subtle things that we can discuss as we go through. I'd love to know, though, about the cast. We've been kind of going back and forth. The family aspect, like these cast of heroes were incredible in my mind. They each had their own spotlight and did such an amazing job. But together, it was incredible how they resembled such a dysfunctional family, even though, even though they weren't a family, they made a family. Like it's really interesting. So I thought it was absolutely stunning. So what about you guys? What did you guys think of the character dynamics and whatnot?
I mean, I'm just going to talk about my favorite character in the entire movie, which I think it'll be a favorite character for a lot of people, which is Yelena. I thought Florence Pugh was just phenomenal in this movie. She honestly, I think she stole the show in a lot of scenes. She was, her character was so well written and didn't feel forced at all. You know how sometimes when you add characters to an already established character's backstory, it can kind of feel out of place? Like, I didn't get that at all from her. And I loved her dry sense of like Russian humor when she's like making fun of like superheroes and like superhero poses throughout the film. I just thought was so fantastic.
There's a terrific running joke throughout the movie.
I love
that
it.
pays
It was so
off.
well done.
It's
So
really
Every
good.
single time, I did not laugh at any moment that she brought that up. So definitely, I love that. And I also think like when she's serious and when she's authentic and when she's upset, she's so perfect. Like she does such a good job in that role, and her accent didn't bother me at all. I think everyone who had an accent in this movie absolutely nailed it, and I was really, really stoked for her character. And I don't know. I fell in love with her again because seeing her in Little Women and being like, wow, she was amazing in that, and now this. Come on, she's in our MCU.
I will say this is the movie that has taught me that Florence Pugh is an amazing actress because of just the range. She was funny. She was action-oriented. She was dramatic and serious and emotional. She had such depth to her character that she actually played well in this MCU world and established her own character. So while we have like this prequel history origin story for Black Widow, this serves as a really great origin story for her character as well.
For sure.
For Yelena.
I mean, I thought Florence was great in a little movie called Wrestling with My Family. And I thought her performance in that, surrounded by the rest of what that movie was, which was just okay, I thought she was just terrific, like almost too good for that movie, her performance. And here she was given even more to work with. And the dynamics between her highs and lows as she's sort of struggling with everything that's going on with the people around her, like you wanted to laugh with her and you felt sad with her. Like she was just so authentic. It was a really great all-time Marvel performance for a debut, in my opinion.
Yeah, hands down. I think close second though is David Harbour.
Yeah, there's several characters I want to see again. Right? They succeeded in that.
So I will say this, and I don't know if it's a spoiler, but at the press conference, there were definitely gentle hints and nods that he'd be up for coming back to do whatever it is, and just to see some more of his story. And I think that like introducing his character, the sort of as the trailers have already captured, this sort of failed Russian Captain America, if you will, and he's just and how he plays out this character. And again, he added such emotional range, being cocky, being super down on himself. Like there was such pathos to his character as Harbour describes, and I feel like he demonstrated that so well, and I want to see more of him. I want to see more of him for sure. What do you guys think?
I definitely, I was laughing throughout the movie, both at him and with him at times. And I love the way I love the way they introduce both Melina and Alexei to us, and then I love the way how they sort of reintroduce them to us, and we get to see who they really might be. So definitely, I really enjoyed that aspect about it, and I really do hope that we get more Alexei in the future. Man, I think the whole family dynamic was fantastic. And then I also just wanted to just shout out O.T. Fagbenley, who plays Mason. You know what? Listen, I think he was there. He was there, but he also
the 4 minutes he was in it, he was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I didn't know he was British because I'm used to seeing him in *Handmaid's Tale*, and so he's definitely a different role there. But I liked how his character fits so well into the spy genre.
Yeah,
because
he's the guy that gets you the stuff.
That's the James Bond.
Yeah. He's cute.
But even like he's always got that associate who hooks him up with planes and stuff.
I feel like we'll see him come back if they were to do more with Yelena's character. I feel like that could be an establishing. Kev, go ahead.
Well, and then speaking of James Bond, like this was the most James Bondy villain of any Marvel film, I think. Without getting into it, it's a very James Bond-esque sort of scheme going on, and I'm not a huge Ray Winston fan, and think while he was serviceable, that was such a meaty role. I think that like I wanted somebody that could just really steal the scene when he was in it.
Well, this is actually a perfect opportunity to talk about what I didn't like, because he was the thing that I did not like about it. It's the only thing I didn't like about it, really. Like, I could be really nitpicky, and maybe I'll save that for the spoilers, but I have to say, Ray Winstone was underwhelming. His character was underwhelming. He did not need to be in this movie at all, and I would have rather it just been the Taskmaster.
I think it was a cool villain. It was just so underwhelmingly portrayed.
He was underwhelmingly portrayed, but I think he was also like, I don't know, it didn't seem like he was the emphasis of it as much as the Red Room and the organization. Like
exactly, it's what he was capable of that was cooler than him.
Yes, exactly.
And I think when you've got a villain like Taskmaster in the movie, and how phenomenal that character is in terms of the action and what they bring and the presence that character brings to the
alone,
movie.
Every time Taskmaster comes on the screen, you're just like, here we go.
On the edge of my seat with this character.
We're talking about what we didn't like. We didn't like.
No, for sure. But I'll add to that, Justin. I didn't like how little of Taskmaster we actually did get. I thought it was definitely underutilized. And then to sort of make way for this other character who, like you guys are saying, he was a copy and paste Bond villain. You know what I mean? Copy and paste, and to the point where it's very unoriginal. And again, I just think like, I don't know, it's tough to balance that, right? And I get the reason, without going into spoilers as to why they went that direction.
Sure.
But I just, it definitely was the weak part of the movie there.
It was the weakest. Yeah, it was the weakest part, and it didn't seem like there was any sort of commitment, and his Russian accent was just all over the place.
I think guys playing bad Russian villains are screwed for a couple years just because of how good Kenneth Branagh was in Tenet. Like, we're spoiled for, like, that's the pinnacle of that. That's character true. For 5 years going now, And I mean, think about it. Ray Winstone was the worst part of Indiana Jones 4. That's saying something right there.
So I think we should just get right into it and actually just find out what you guys actually thought. And, at the start of the episode, we discussed our hype level going into the movie. Now, I would love to know, after seeing it and our lovely little discussion here, did it live? Or did it surpass it, or did it not at all move? Kev, let's start with you.
I think the one thing that hurts this film is when it was released. And I don't even mean by a year. I mean by about 5 years. I think so many people are going to go into this where we've just had the huge sort of developments of the Infinity War and the fallout from Endgame. And we've seen these 3 TV shows now that seem to sort of be leading into these significant directions of the future. And you get this movie that takes place 5 years ago, 10 years ago, technically, if you count the blip. And it's a character that deserves to get to see more of her. I just think it would have served everything that happens to this character later even better if this came out right after Civil War. I think the story would have felt more important. It would have felt more like we were moving towards the next stage of the Marvel story versus this flashback that, again, just in the end, well, it's a great movie. It fits into the Marvel universe. It just doesn't really have a relevant or important enough story in terms of its ramifications to be coming out right now. I think I'm at almost an advantage or a disadvantage, depending on how you look at it, in that I am coming off of the perfect time of my rewatch, that this movie, it could not have been more perfect to just slide in as the very next movie I'm watching after Civil War, the movie that it directly follows, And so for me, this lived well over the hype that I had going into it, just because it's a relevant story for my journey through this whole bigger story. I think it's going to hurt people's reactions to it that haven't had a similar experience, where you haven't seen these events for maybe a few years since the last time you saw the movie, and you're a lot further along in the overall story. So again, for me, it surpassed. I'm going to give it, I would give it a solid 85 in terms of, my hype was a 60. I'm coming out at an 85 in terms of what it did for me.
For sure. Okay, cool. Okay, and that's actually a really great advice for people, maybe too, if they want to refresh themselves. Maybe go watch Civil War.
Go watch Civil War first, I think.
Maybe, if you want. Nate, your hype level, bud, coming out of this movie.
Yeah. I mean, again, going into it, I think I had mentioned that I was I was cautiously optimistic, and I set the expectations properly for myself. So yeah, at the end of the night, it's a great movie. I've watched it twice so far. I really enjoyed it. It did exactly what it set out to do, and it didn't overstay its welcome. It did all this while elevating Natasha's character, giving her a proper send-off. And it also sets up Yelena in a way that gets me really excited, and I really hope we do get to see her again. And I think this movie did just as much for her as it did for Natasha. So that's, I think that was pretty cool that they were able to balance that. And I also feel like, while this movie, I don't think this movie is going to have the big pop, though. that people want it to have. Again, being the first Phase 4 movie, I think a lot of people are going to go into this thinking, oh my gosh, we've made it. We've got through, we're now through 2.5 live action series, and now we're getting our first Phase 4 movie. Here we go. And it's a solo movie. So I think as a solo movie, for me, it lives up to the hype. At a hype level, I would go to probably even a 90 at this point. I really enjoyed it. Yeah.
Yeah, you're hammering home exactly what we've been saying here, in that, go into this as if it's the first or second movie of Phase 3. That's really the mindset you have to go into this with, right? Not expecting the first movie of Phase 4. For
sure. Yeah, and I totally agree with that sentiment as well. Just setting the right expectations before going in, because this isn't like, especially with the fact that, we've had WandaVision, we've had, the Falcon and Winter Soldier, which would have followed Black Widow had it all gone in the order. It would have been Black Widow, and then the Falcon and Winter Soldier series would have hit Disney Plus, and that would have been a good pairing. So you know what I mean? Like, who knows? It's just keeping you in that sort of real world element. What we've already seen and coming into the theaters and seeing this, to your point, Kevin, it does might give it a bit of a disadvantage. But that being said, as I mentioned, I was hesitant about the movie. I was, I thought it was odd timing to want to do a Black Widow standalone film, even when they wanted to release it last year. I just thought it was strange that you'd want to tell a story about a character that is now dead. But that also got me kind of intrigued with this idea of what could they be establishing. The film was a surprise to me. It was a simple story about around Romanoff's past and her resolution with unfinished business. And the film is elevated by its ensemble cast and characters like Alexei, played by David Harbour, or Yulana, played by Florence Pugh, who, again, I would love to see more in this MCU, both characters either together or not. I think it's they've done a really good job with setting up those sort of elements. So I think going in, I had lower expectations, and after watching it, I think I would probably be at a 90 on the hype scale. I think I was pleasantly surprised. I think I went in with such low expectations that this thing rocked my socks. So
there we go,
right? So. Awesome. Well, that's it for our spoiler-free review. We hope you enjoyed hearing our early reaction to Marvel's Black Widow. If you did, feel free to give us a review. Make sure it is 5 stars, because we're killers. No, I don't know. That's just the minimum. Also, we're not done talking about this movie. We'll be dropping our spoiler-filled review because we're Geekcentric. That's what we do. We're going to break this thing down and just talk about all the details, which will happen after the release of Black Widow. And remember, if you want to hear our thoughts, be sure to check out the movie when it hits theaters. Well, selected theaters, because for us here in Canada, it's available on Disney Plus with Premier Access, which means it'll come to a cost. I think that's $30 US and 35 Canadian. I'm not sure. Make sure to check Disney Plus, and you can find
still
that information
cheaper than
out.
2 tickets at the theater.
100%. It's definitely worth it. But we also have a lot of other things going on the channel as well. We have 2 watch clubs going on, one for Star Wars The Bad Batch, and we just dropped episode 9 this past Monday. And later this week, we'll be dropping our watch club for episode 4 of Loki. So stay tuned for that. Guys, so much content.
We got a lot.
It's like it's
great.
It's messing up my calendar. I'm like, we're posting things all over the place, and it's
fantastic.
It's good. There's stuff out there, and we're just blessed to be having these opportunities. So, and if those who like to listen to us,
but I mean, everybody is like, stuff's back, stuff's coming out left, right, and center. We're back to that sense of familiarity and normalcy, where it's movies to look forward to and TV shows to look forward to. It's great. It's a great time for everyone.
And I'm happy to say I am vaxxed, so I will be going to Fan Expo with you boys in October. That'll definitely be one of I think the first pieces of content to hit Geekcentric in the next little while. Maybe we'll see. But anyways, that's it. Kev, Nate, thank you for joining me for our spoiler-free preview review. And as we say,
love ya.
For just a little while longer. Stay home safe, guys.
Peace.